Hello, everybody. Kristin Ciliberto here on behalf of Film Fest Report, giving you all an exclusive interview with the one and only JOSH LEONG. He is the director behind the short film Chicken, which had its world premiere at the TRIBECA Film Festival. Josh is an inspiring filmmaker who's looking to make a difference with his stories. In this short film, it is set in a Bronx juvenile prison where a 16-year-old boy is faced with losing custody of his child, and he must discover what it takes to be a father by raising a chicken. It's a really outstanding short film, and I hope you enjoy our interview with the one and only JOSH LEONG. So Josh, thank you so much for coming on our show to speak with me. And I want to ask you, our first question is, what makes Chicken different from other short films you have worked on?
I think it's mostly similar, I think, in a lot of ways in terms of like subject matter to the kind of things I like to tell. So, stories that are based in real life or on true stories, kind of inspired by real experiences that I have kind of had volunteering, whether it's, overseas on a missions trip or in this case, volunteering in a Bronx juvenile detention center. And I think it highlights a lot of these really topical, social themes. Particularly in this case, youth incarceration and high recidivism rates in New York City. But I think something very special about this particular project was just kind of the focus on fatherhood throughout the story. I think you have essentially characters that are forced to grow up a lot faster than they need to. So the characters themselves are 16 years old, but they're playing the roles of fathers. And I think that's a really important distinction to kind of make in a film like this, because I think a lot of times we also forget that these kids are really just kids. And if we judge the whole world by what we were doing when we were 16, we wouldn't have a functioning society. Yeah,
it's so different because you have a different mindset at 16 and you see them grow up, or like they have to grow up really fast in the situation that they're in. So I have to ask you, what was the most challenging part and what inspired you to create Chicken?
I'll start with that second part. About a year ago, I volunteered at a juvenile detention center in the Bronx with my church. And the week I volunteered was the week preceding Father's Day. And you began to see that a lot of these kids were getting super emotional around this time. And so the juvenile detention centers are for kids 18 and under. So a lot of these are like 16-year-old boys with children on the outside. They're fathers themselves. And we also noticed that there was a chicken hatching program in the prison. This is a real thing where they learn how to raise baby chicks. It's used essentially as a gentling activity and to teach responsibility. But eventually you started seeing these kids grow attachments to these chickens and treating them like surrogate children. So that became the concept for the film. I think the most challenging part was certainly just kind of getting all of our actors and our crew kind of behind this world that we were creating. I think it's super important whenever we're approaching a film of this subject matter to really have everybody understand why we're doing it. We didn't get to film in the real prisons, so we were shooting in schools and stuff like that. And we had obviously had a bunch of people on the team who had never stepped foot in a juvenile detention center or even knew that they existed in New York City. So it was a lot of kind of getting people behind that vision, making sure that people understood the why behind what we do, and hopefully that produced good work.
I am quite impressed. You just said you filmed this at a school, because it looks like you filmed in an actual juvenile detention center. That's incredible, because you really did a great job setting up that worldview. So I had to also ask you this next question. Do you see potential in making Chicken into like a full feature film? Because I see expanding the world on these characters that you introduced to us.
I think not in this particular iteration. There's something about Chicken that feels very self-contained in terms of like its journey from start to finish. I think we leave a lot of things ambiguous because it's important to. For example, we never know why any of these children are inside this facility, and I don't think that's actually relevant to their characters, because we don't judge these children by what they did when they came in, and it's also left kind of ambiguous towards the end as well, because we also, don't know where these children end up. And I think a lot of times what we can do is we can offer hope, we can offer these opportunity, and it really is on them to kind of make that change and make that page turn. And so I think in its current state, not on the cards, a feature version. I am working on a feature of a different short I did in Ethiopia, kind of similar story about a 16-year-old boy in a government orphanage in Ethiopia. So that's kind of in the works, but nothing present at Chicken right now.
Oh, it sounds like you're just like very drawn to these coming of age stories. So what draws you into that? Is that where you just bring in from personal experience, or do you just know people where you can just tell these stories from?
I think everything that we tell has to come from a very personal place. It has to come from some lived experience. And so I think I've just been very, very fortunate to, kind of encounter kids like this. When I was in high school, I used to go on mission trips with my church inside. Been to the Philippines or Ethiopia, the Dominican Republic, and just seeing the lives of these people and just kind of having a little window into someone else's life and trying to hopefully understand their story a little bit, or listen to their story at least, and try to pair it with something that I know I'm talented at doing, which is telling stories. And so I think a lot of that has just been derived from the world around me. I think that we have a responsibility as filmmakers to reflect the things that we see. And so I have a responsibility when I'm confronted with these issues, whether it's in the Bronx or it's in Ethiopia, to just kind of reflect the stories around me and hopefully empower the people around me and allow the communities to take part in the film that is being made and hopefully have an impact, because these films don't just exist in a vacuum. When we talk about, my film in Ethiopia or this film in the Bronx, we're also actively partnering with local organizations and impact partners, the people doing the real work on the ground. Because as a filmmaker, I can't sit here and pretend I'm a real expert about all these issues, or I'm the big activist that's kind of trying to enforce change. But we want to turn over the stage and give the microphone to the real people and these real spaces. And so in Chicken's case, we worked with probably 3 organizations that were really key that are doing work right now inside these prisons and for children coming out of the prison system and out of close to home facilities. And so that's C3's Juvenile Justice Ministry. Sprout by Design is the actual program that runs the chicken hatching program, and then Minority Millennials, which is also targeted a little bit more of the aftercare after these kids have kind of come out, particularly among Black and brown communities around the Bronx and Brooklyn, just making sure that we don't repeat this cycle of recidivism that we see so frequently in the city.
Now, do you live in the city? Is that how you got involved in the Bronx area?
I do live in the city. I went to NYU, and this was actually my thesis film.
Oh, that's so awesome!
And so I was in the area. I still am in the area.
Okay, that's so awesome. So that must be like a huge honor, knowing your thesis got into this wonderful program of shorts. Like, you got to be showcased with so many other wonderful artists. So that must have been a huge honor. Absolutely. I think it's still, I'm still pinching myself that it happened. Tribeca has been a dream for a while. It's obviously the New York Film Festival. I went when I was a freshman in college, and then just to see things. And now I get to actually be a part of the festival alongside so many other incredible filmmakers. So it's really been really a real treat, a real gift. It's the dreams come true moment. Absolutely. Alrighty, so I'll just wrap things up and say thank you so much. And I can't wait to see the feature film of this project that you're going to work on next. I really am interested in your film career. So I gotta wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much, Kristin. I really appreciate it. Yes, of course.